Now let us talk about, now since we have talked already about the droughts, now let us talk about the floods. It is entirely opposite of droughts. Um, a flood, if you talk about the technical definition of flood, a flood is a natural event where a piece of land that is usually dry suddenly gets submerged under water. If there is water in a river, it will not be called as a flood. But if that water comes into the cities where the land should be dry, and it gets submerged, then it will be called as a flood. So here I have shown four different pictures, and the causes of all four different pictures is all the four different types of floods is different. Okay, here this is a riverine flood where a huge discharge of water coming into the river. Here it is urban flood where this kind of flood has happened due to blockage of drainage. Okay, here if you see on this in this place there is no flood, but this particular within below this bridge it is flooded because the drainage is blocked. Here this is because of poor stormwater combined with the high tide. This is another cause of flood, and this is the flood. This is the Kedarnath flood. The cause of this flood was Glof. So we are going to discuss all the four different types of floods in the coming slides. If you talk about the flood prone area in India, it is about 40 million hectares, and out of which about 32 million hectares can be given a reasonable protection. All right. Out of 40 million hectares, the 40 million hectare area is flood prone, sorry. And out of this 40 million hectares, 32 million hectares can be given protection. At the time of close to independence, prior to 1954, only 3 million hectares was given the protection. And till 2004, 15 million hectares, 15.8 million hectare has been given protection, but there is still a long way to go. Only about 50% of the area which can be given protection is protected. Till 2004, of course, there would have been some progress since 2004. If we talk about the total damage, about 13.4 billion rupees of total damage annually is happening in India. About 8.11 million hectare of area is affected on an average every year. About 3.57 million hectares of crop area is affected, is destroyed due to floods every year. On an average, about 1600 or so, close to 1600 number of casualties that happen, and about close to 1 lakh, I would say 95,000 or close to 1 lakh cattle are lost every year due to floods. These are annual damages, so you can multiply them by the number of year and you can calculate the total damage that happens. Again, I have taken these all data from the sites of Central Road Commission and the ERNet, NIH ERNet websites. Let's talk about the causes of floods. Whenever we talk about or whenever we hear about flood, the first thing that comes into our mind is heavy rains causing rivers to overflow. Yes, this is the biggest type of flood, or this is the type of flood which is causing the most of the damage, about say 90-95% of the damage in India. This happens when the total amount of water which is coming into the river is more than the capacity of river. So water is breaking the banks of the river and going into the cities and villages, which is causing the flood. So this is the first cause. The second cause is the coastal floods due to strong winds. If the winds are strong, these winds create huge waves, and when these waves hit the coastal areas, the water goes into the land. So I'm just going to show. These are two pics. You can see here. You can see these are the boats. So you can imagine the height to which it is going. See, you can see here it is a lamp post here. From here to here, it's a lamp post. Okay, a lamp post is usually 20 feet high, so you can calculate the height of this wave that is happening. So I'm just going to show you a small video of the state of Texas, where due to hurricane, strong winds happened, and the big waves that occurred, and they were hitting the coastline, and the water was coming into the cities. So we'll just see this 2-3 minutes long video, and we will see the next video after that. Of course, there are some breakwaters. There are some solutions to prevent these kind of floods. We can have breakwaters. Plus, we can have breakwaters means something like if you have visited the Marine Drive of Mumbai, there are some concrete blocks that are placed in the entire the coast of the Marine Drive. Those are breakwaters. Breakwaters can be on the coast. They can also be inside the ocean. The third big cause of flood, although not so frequent, but yes, very damaging, are the dam breaks. The dam break happens usually very fast. It gives a very small amount of time to prepare for those floods. For example, we get some warning time, some time before coastal floods and also before the riverine floods, because we have some forecast of the monsoon, we have some forecast of the typhoons or some heavy winds. We do have some forecast, but dam break usually happen very fast. So we get a very small amount of time to prepare for those dam breaks, and the authorities have to evacuate a large number of people in a very small amount of time. So although very rare, but these kind of floods, they cause huge damage. So I'm just going to show a small video. This happened in a embankment dam. I'm not going to go into the technical part, but the cause of this dam break was piping. Piping means water starts flowing below the dam. Here, this is the dam part. This is the abutment. From below the dam, the water starts flowing, and then it forms a kind of tunnel, and then that tunnel grows up and finally breaks the entire dam. So you can see this dam was entirely broken within a period of 24 hours, and this entire huge amount of water was flooded into the river, and then that caused the flood in the downstream area. Another video of a gravity dam. Here the central part was not keyed properly, and it failed, and it just toppled over. So this entire water started to go into the downstream part of the river. So although these dam breaks are not so frequent, but once they happen, they cause a lot of damage. Next, tsunamis. Most of you must have heard about it. A tsunami happens when an earthquake takes place inside the ocean. Okay, so a very small amount of ground movement inside the ocean at a greater depth will cause huge amount of water entering the coastal areas. So I have a small video that became very famous during the Japanic tsunami. Due to earthquake, what happens? A small movement inside the ocean at a greater depth is going to translate into huge amount of water on the coastal areas. So you can see all these cars, all these boats going with the water. See how huge amount of water is coming, and a very small amount of time. It doesn't give, even see, you can see the cars that are moving on the road. So you can see that there was no time to prepare. Within a matter of a few hours, it is going to hit the coastal cities and it is going to cause huge amount of loss. Of course, there are some buoys, the tsunami buoys that are placed for predicting the movement of these kind of tsunami waves, but still the time is generally not enough for preparing against these kind of tsunamis, because the amount of water that is coming is huge. Another video of a tsunami. If you search on a Google or YouTube tsunami, you will get lots of these videos. So you can see people are still not very serious about the tsunami which is coming. And now I think they realize that yes, it's a tsunami, and now they will run. So tsunamis, they give a very small amount of time, very small time to prepare for them. GLOF is something new concept for you, I think. GLOF full form is Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. It happens, these are some glacial lakes that usually are there. Okay, these kind of lakes are already there because the snow is melting, and here the glacier is there, and due to the sunshine, the ice melts and then it comes here and tries to go here, but due to some natural blockage, a lake is formed. Usually this natural blockage is not that strong, and if that starts breaching, it's like a small embankment dam. It's a natural embankment dam kind of thing, and if it starts breaching, then this thing is going to break in a very small amount of time. Or say for example a cloud burst happens here, then a huge amount of water will enter here. Or for example there is a landslide that happens here, it will enter here, it is going to create a big wave and it is going to break this thing. Once this thing is broken, then this entire water is going to go downstream, and that may happen that when this water goes into the river downstream, it may meet another glacial lake. So these two waters are going to add up, and that is going to break, and then going down another glacial lake may be there, and this is how it will be a chain kind of reaction, and multiple lakes, if there are multiple lakes, all these lakes are going to break at once, and the entire water is going to come in a very small amount of time. It gives almost no time for preparation. Within a matter of hours it is going to come. There is no time for evacuation. The flood that happened at Kedarnath was because of GLOF. There was a glacial lake, and on the upstream side of it a cloudburst happened. Because of that glacial lake broke. The very characteristic of that GLOF is that huge boulders come with the water, because it's a huge amount of water, plus there is ice. So whenever the ice is moving, it picks up the boulders from the riverbed, and those boulders come along with the flood during a GLOF. So again I have a video of a GLOF that was captured from a military helicopter. So you can see somewhere here on the top of the mountain, glacial lake was burst, and this huge amount of water is coming down from this lake. Here the lake was there, and it broke here, and then the entire water is coming here. In case of GLOF, very characteristic is the water will be very muddy. It will be a dirty water. I would say it will be having a lots of sediments. It will be a very muddy water. It will not be clear water. So this is a small video. Next cause of flood is the blockage of drainage. Usually happens in the cities. If the drainages are not clean or not clean out of the debris before monsoon, this thing is going to happen. Mumbai is facing almost every 1 or 2 years. Mumbai is facing these kind of floods. Even a very small amount of rain in a small amount of time is going to cause inundation in most of the areas. that is because of the blockage. It's not because a huge amount of water has come. Yes, of course, huge amount of water is going to cause floods, but if the drainages are blocked, then even a small amount of water is going to cause the floods. So drainages must be cleaned before the monsoon, and if that is not done, it is going to cause floods. So if you see here, this area, there is no flood, there is no water, because it's a higher area, and this area is lower area, but the drainage somewhere here is not clear, so water here cannot escape, and it is going to cause floods. The thing is, it is going to increase even more in case of underpasses. So whenever there is an underpass and the drainage is not clean, the height of water is going to increase way more. Talking about preventing or managing floods, of course we can prevent the floods. In case of droughts, it's not possible, but for floods, the floods can be prevented. Also, floods can be managed. There are two ways in which the floods can be prevented or managed. In technical terms, these are called as structural measures or non-structural measures. In structural measures, we create some sort of structure to prevent the flood. A structure can be a storage dam or a retention dam or a barrage. So if a flood is coming from the upstream towards the dam, and of course we have some lead time, that in say 24 hours or 48 hours the flood wave is going to come to the reservoir. Then what is done is some water is released from the reservoir, okay, in advance, so that the cushion or the buffer for that flood wave which is coming can be created. And when that water comes, it gets absorbed into the reservoir, so it doesn't damage the downstream side of the of course it is going to cause some flood, but the effects are going to be migrated to a large extent. Flood leaves or embankments which are on the sides of the river. So if a river is having a large floodplain, then flood leaf or embankment can be created on the both sides of the river, so that the river is properly routed and contained within its banks. It doesn't breach the banks. Coastal breakwaters, we have already seen. These coastal breakwaters, they help in managing the floods due to high winds and the high waves and the large waves due to strong winds. River training works, again river training works are going to help in reducing the meandering of the river. River are in the planar area, rivers have a kind of tendency to change the path every year. So whenever a river is turning on the left side, then on this side it is going to deposit, and here on this side it is going to erode. So next year it is going to go again, and then it is going to again. So it keeps on changing the course, and these rivers change the course every monsoon. So by making proper river training works, by containing the river and making proper channel for the river, it is not going to change the course. And if the river is not changing the course, we can predict where the water is going, and then we can prevent the flood. So these are some of the structural measures. Talking about non-structural measures, where no structure is required to be made, the first one is flood forecast. So a flood forecast and flood inundation mapping. Flood inundation mapping means, for example, a river is usually flowing at 500 elevation, and if the water is going to 510 meters, then how much area is going to be underwater, and if it goes to 512 meters, then how much area is going to be inundated. These kind of flood maps are generated, and based on the forecast which is issued based on the inflow which is coming on the upstream, say this is the river, and on the upstream a flood is coming. On the downstream, we know now, because of the upstream measurements, now we know on the downstream at what time, at what level is going to be reached, and based on that we can predict or we can forecast that how much area is going to be flooded after how many hours. So we get a forecast about the flood, and we can warn the authorities. They can start evacuation, they can start the works of evacuating the people and saving them from the floods. Floodplain zoning is a similar thing. For example, what is the probability of flood in a particular area? Okay, so let's say any area that is having more than 50% of the probability of flood should not be having hospitals, of course, because hospitals are required when the floods happen. So in say 1 in a 100-year flood, or probability of, say for example, less than 5%, a probability of flood less than 5%, there we will place a hospital or maybe a fire station, these kind of. So floodplain zoning means zoning the area which is nearby the river, that what is the percentage of probability of flood into that area. Okay, probability of flood 5%, less than 5%, 5 to 10%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 50%, more than 50%. These kind of floodplain zonings can be done in areas with near the river, and important structure should be in the areas which is having less than say 5 or 10%, depending on the planning of the city. Okay, and drainage maintenance before monsoon. Here again we are not making any structures. We are cleaning the existing drainage system before monsoon so that urban floods do not happen. So we have seen the droughts and floods. We have also seen their causes, types, and so on, and we have also seen the solutions. So being an engineer, I would suggest that the ultimate solution to prevent both of them, we can prevent both of them using one single solution. This is the single solution. Creating storage. Creating storage is going to prevent droughts as well as it is going to create the floods. Storage means reservoirs, dams, barrages, lakes and ponds, and so on. So it is going to how it is going to mitigate or manage the drought is it is going to provide water when there is no rains. Okay, and how it is going to manage the floods, prevent the floods? You can create a buffer inside a reservoir before the flood waves comes. So it is going to prevent the floods as well. So storage creation is the ultimate solution. Next is river interlinking. So there are some areas, if you remember the areas that were flood affected and the drought affected, usually the areas that are flood affected are not drought affected as well. So by interlinking the rivers, we can take the excess water from the flood affected areas to the drought affected areas. We can prevent both of these. So this is the next solution. And the education. Educating people about the importance of storages, the importance of water conservation, the importance of keeping their water bodies clean, not polluting them. These kind of things are going to create the generation of people who are going to be informative or who are going to be informed about our water resources, and they are going to become decision makers of the future of our country, and then only they are going to be an asset and they will be helping in taking the decisions that are going to manage floods as well as droughts. So this is all about today's session. I hope you have learned a lot. If you have any questions or queries or anything that you want to discuss or you want to post any queries or anything, I am always there available. I'm just going to write my contact details here so that if you want you can contact me here. My email is this and my mobile number is this. So anyone who wants to contact me, you can contact me through WhatsApp or call or email. I will be very happy to give the answers of your queries. So thank you very much. Thank you once again. Just a second. So now I think you are able to see the screen. So these are my contact details. If you want to contact me, you can contact me at any time. I will be very happy to answer to your queries. Thank you very much.